Okay, so as I've said, this system has been commissioned by the diocesan secretaries for use across the province, but we are trialling it, working alongside Bob, who works for SystemServe, and he's the software developer. So he's here to answer any technical questions, and I'm here to just demonstrate that even the least technically proficient person can use this system. The app has been designed for use on a phone primarily because it is designed so that when you are actually taking a service or running an event, whatever sort of event that is, because this app gathers data for beyond Sunday services, you should be able to just key in the data as you're at the event, rather than having to fill in a register and then 12 months later. I'm sorry, I'm just going to stop, just going to pause the recording. So as I say, the idea is that the app will enable you to capture real-time information instead of having to complete registers. You'll still have to do those because they have to go off to the National Archive, but you will have real-time information instead of having to wait to the following year. It's about 18 months, isn't it, between a January service or event and you seeing the data actually where in a place where you can see it on screen. So it's designed for phones, and it can also be viewed on a laptop if that's easier. So if you prefer, you can scribble down your data on a piece of paper and take it home, but then you lose a bit of the immediacy there. We are trialling it currently in 2 mission areas. One is Estuarine Mountain, which gives us a bit of coastal, slightly urban, and the other is in Valicrucis, which is extremely rural. So we're using it there just to check out things like connectivity and so on. So without further ado, I'm going to start sharing my screen and let you have a look at it. Yeah, I hope you can all see that. And so the first thing is you will be given a login and a password. So one of the things that you will need to do is set up your users, and Bob is going to show you how to do that at the end of the session. I'm going in on a non-live system. This is a training system that Bob has given me. So I'm going in as Trevor. Okay, so I can see here that I'm in the membership app and I'm in the Diocese of St. Asaph, and these are the churches that I have access to. You will see here the dates. If I want to fill in last week's numbers, if I forgot to charge my phone or for some reason I didn't put in last week's data, I can click on these little arrows and I will move backwards, and also I can use the other arrow to go forwards. So you will be familiar, if you've ever submitted your membership and finance online, Bob has tried to keep a very similar aesthetic to this screen to help people in the transition. So if there's a green tick, it means that the data has been entered, and if there isn't, it means it hasn't. So I'm going to click on All Saints Buckley, and here I am into the screen. At the top of the screen, we've started with what we think is the most obvious thing to start with, because most churches have Sunday attendance. You may not have one every week, but if you're not having one every week, it's likely that this is probably the only thing that's happening in your church. So we've consulted with the Archdeacon, and they have, he has given me a list of types of service that he thinks are likely to happen on a Sunday. So we can count up our young people. So we're going to say this was a family type service. So we've had 12 young people and we've had 35 adults, and it was family worship. Okay, if you have a second service, you might have, let's say, an evensong or a compline. So we can put in here, we had 9 people for compline. And you've got the option to have 5 services on a Sunday. And we've done that because some of the larger churches, particularly across the province, those that are in the big cities and towns, may indeed need that. So we thought 5 seemed to be a reasonable number. One of our guiding principles has been to try not to clutter up the screen, because a phone screen is quite small. So that was one of Bob's guiding principles, that he didn't want to put too much information. So we've tried to get the balance between having enough and not too much. Midweek attendance, Bob's already tweaked this in response to the trial, because we had one church that's in the trial who got in touch with Bob and said, I do morning prayer in church every day of the week. So Bob, you can see there, has put midweek attendance for up to 10 services. So again, you're under 18s in this box, you're over 18s in that box. And again, you can select down. We've repeated the same services in this box, again, so that you get the people who are using it get used to those drop-down menus and where things are. So those are Sunday services, Sunday attendance, and midweek attendance. But the one complaint we always had about the old form was that it did not recognise that church happens in many different ways. And so we've got life events next, and we've worked quite hard to, again, not clutter this up with too much information. So we start with baptisms, and it says here in the guidance, under 18 and over 18 refers to the number of people baptised. So let's say we have a baptism service and we have 2 children and 1 adult. And then one church in the trial has asked us to put in the number of attendees. That's optional. These are all optional. So if you want to know how many people are crossing your threshold, it can be quite useful to put in the number of attendees. This will be very useful, for example, if you were looking at some sort of grant application, to be able to say that you've had this number of people over a period of time crossing the threshold. One question that came up last time was, do the number of attendees at a baptism, does that include what you may have already, if it's a baptism in a Sunday service, does it already include the people that would normally be at the Sunday service? And to be honest, that's a matter for the mission area to decide, for you to come up with some sort of consistent way of capturing this. Because what I must reiterate is that this is a management tool for you as mission areas, as churches. This is so you can see what's growing, what's plateaued, and what is actually in decline. Then if something has plateaued, you can decide whether it needs a bit of oomph, if it needs a bit more resource, more time, more energy. If it's in decline, do you give it a shot in the arm or do you kill it off? And obviously if it's growing, then that might be something that you would want to share with other churches in your mission area or even across the diocese. So number of attendees there, if that's data you want to capture. Then we've got funerals, and it's clear here, this relates to the number of funeral services. So services done in church and services done elsewhere, and how many people attended those services. With weddings, we've got the total number of services and the number of attendees. That should be reasonably simple because weddings don't happen in a normal service. And then with confirmations, we've got the total number of people confirmed. And remember, these are weekly figures, so many weeks you won't be using all of these boxes. Okay, so that's our life events. And then we've got miscellaneous services. Now, something to say about this is that we've come up with a list of 4 things that probably wouldn't have been on the list too many years ago. Online worship has certainly taken off since the pandemic. Cafe church has been around for a while, but it's still considered pretty much a fresh expression. Messy church, and one that's relatively new is wild church. So we think these are now mainstream enough to include under miscellaneous services. But what will happen is, if you've got another type of service, let's say you've got something that I've seen popping up is muddy church. I'm not sure where that differs from wild church or messy church. Maybe it's a combo of the both. But let's say there's a muddy church and we had 17 people at it. If we start to see a lot of the same things being put in those boxes from multiple churches, then we will have a debate, a discussion about whether we move them from this area up to here. But that will be done in collaboration with Bob and his team. So we'll keep an eye on what's coming through as other services, Again, what we don't want is a long list of things where they're only happening maybe in 1 or 2 churches across the province. Okay. So those are services, but we all know that church appears in many different formats. So we've also added in, I say we, this is Bob. Bob has added in discipleship, and we're going to capture just the attendance figures for these. So we tried to group them. These are some of the more common discipleship courses: Alpha, Emmaus, Christianity Explored and Start from Leipzig. Then over here, we've got things that you'll be doing again to help grow people in their faith: prayer groups, Bible study, home groups, Theology for Life. And then down here, because we are using Leipzig as a church growth mechanism across the diocese, we'd like to capture if you're running Leipzig local or any other kind of Leipzig event. And again, it's attendance figures for these. If you're doing something else that we haven't put down, then type in your figures here and then tell us what you're doing in there. And again, if we get enough people doing an other that we are not aware of, we can talk about whether it needs to move up. So that's discipleship. And again, just to try and keep it tight on your mobile phone, you click on the plus sign for those boxes to drop down and the takeaway sign for it to go back up. Next, we've got a session on youth and children, and we've done quite a lot of consultation with our trial churches and trial missionaries about this, but we'll see how it goes, because these are figures that we, like discipleship, we've never captured these before. So we've got, these are all things that take place in the church or church hall. So we've got school services, but this isn't where you go into school and lead an assembly. This is where the young people, the pupils, the teachers, possibly the parents, come in to the school, come into the church school service. We've also got uniformed organisation events, after school clubs, holiday clubs, film clubs, Sunday schools, breakfast clubs, toddlers groups, youth groups, and again we've got other, because there's bound to be some stuff that we've never heard of that you're doing, because you're also innovative, but also we want to capture everything. We want to make sure we've got that that information. And finally, we have got social outreach. So we were asked to try and capture volunteers or attendees, or both if it makes sense. For example, with street pastors, we thought, yeah, well, we might have 3 members of our mission area going outside working as street pastors, but it'd be quite difficult to say how many people you've given flip-flops to, or you've held their hair out of their face while they vomit in the gutter, you know, the sorts of things that street pastors do. So we've put volunteers and attendees, and again, it's up to you as a mission area how you capture that. If you need to explain anything, you can put it in the extra note. Okay, and you'll see there we've got a wide range of things that you could be doing as social outreach, and again we've got other. Now, when I went into this, I went in as a church, and I just want to mention that one of the things we spoke to Bob about at the start was that there are some things, such maybe as here or youth and children, where they don't belong to a particular church, but they belong to a mission area. And so each mission area will have a page that is for mission area only events. So, for example, I run 2 youth groups. They don't belong to a church. The children come from all over the mission area. So I would imagine that when we're filling this in, that the mission area leader or the mission area administrator will put my figures onto the mission area page, or I may be given access to do it myself. That is a matter for you to decide. Fifth Sundays caused quite a lot of debate in the last session. Do we put Fifth Sundays up here at the top, as a service in the church where it was attended, or do we put it on the mission area page because it is the whole mission area coming together? And again, that is for something for you to decide. There is no impact on any of these numbers that you put in on our share anymore, because you know that we have, because we felt that it was a disincentive to growth to attach any growth in the church with the share payment, we have broken that connection. This is a management tool for you to use, so use it as you see fit. If one mission area decides to capture Fifth Sundays at the church where it happens, that's fine. If the neighbouring one decides to capture it on a mission area page, that's fine, because you will know in your mission area how you're capturing that data. And this information is for you. It's for you to do your planning and so on. When you're happy that everything is in, you click on Figures Complete and then you hit Save. So I hope you can see that it's fairly intuitive and that it looks reasonably like the forms that you're used to. And now Bob's going to show us what we can do with the information once we've inputted it. Bob, do you want me to stay on? Do you want to take over this share, or do you want to share your own?
Thank you, Pam. Do you want to say something about mission areas, first of all, filling them in when it's not specific to a church?
I think I just did that, Bob.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yes, so when you go into the front page, you'll have, you can see here that there are mission areas listed, and here there will be a mission area page for you to fill in for those things that don't belong to a particular church. Yeah,
so that user's got access to 2 mission areas there.
Yeah.
At the bottom there, 4 churches and two mission areas. It's all right, because that's that'll come up when I'm showing the user admin stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I will yeah.
Do you want me to stop share, or are you going to use this one to
I think that's okay. So what I will show you is some a rough idea of what the reports are going to look like. We've decided that we need to be gathering quite a lot of data before the reports start to take shape. So we've got some kind of rough ones with some dummy data in to give you an idea of what will be available, but these will be in development for the first few months of its use. There's very little sense in providing reports until we've got much data in there, but we won't know the specifics of what reports are going to look like until we've got stuff in there. So this is a kind of rough idea of the kind of things that we'll be producing. So I've gone into the reports section, and we've got a bunch of attendance reports. So this is like we call it a stacked bar chart. It's showing like the Sunday attendance, the Eucharist, and then the non-Eucharist, and the midweek Eucharist, and things like that, all added together, so you can see the attendance throughout the whole week. And you can flip from one church to another, and from year to year. So I'm navigating my way backwards and forwards through years there. I'm looking at one church at the moment, but I could look at the whole mission area. That's all of the churches added together. This is a graphical view of it, but you can also see sorry, that's opened a spreadsheet. You can also see a tabular thing as well. So this is like weeks down the left, Sunday Eucharist column, Sunday non-Eucharist, and things like that. And then we've got other reports of, this is all the weddings and funerals added together in the same way, and baptisms and confirmations added together in the same way. And all of these are, you can always navigate to, I can look at the whole archdeaconry if I want, and you can kind of navigate your way around, so you can see a specific church or the whole mission area or your whole archdeaconry or the whole diocese. And as with the others, they're all available either graphically or in a table format. And you can, although you can't see this on the screen, if I click on open spreadsheet, it's opened this in a spreadsheet. So those are kind of attendance reports. We then have a view of the this is like just a differently formatted read-only version of what's been filled in, really. So you can have a look at a report like this for a particular church, or in this case across the whole mission area, so that you can view things in aggregate, really. And we've got other reports like this shown by month. So this is weddings throughout the year, group by month. They work in a similar way, so I could look at the whole archdeaconry if I wanted. It would show how many weddings there were each month. Sorry, this is baptisms, number of over 18 baptisms, number of under 18 baptisms. Those are grouped bar charts, they're called. We have stacked bar charts, those are grouped bar charts. So that kind of thing, and we'll have those preset reports in there, so it's easy to get figures like that out. They're all available in table form and spreadsheets as well. And then we've got slightly more flexible ones, really, that let you look at trends that are going on. So here, I mean, this is for a year. This is like a line chart showing how this is how Sunday Eucharist attendance is throughout the year, and then in the background there we've got last year's figures, so you can compare the two. We've got averages, it's shown as dotted lines there, and you can turn these traces on and off if you want. Down the bottom here we've got baptisms, but you can compare different figures against each other. So if I compare, I mean, the data is very much dummy data. It'll look a bit more sensible when we've got proper data in there, but you can compare one or more figures. So you might want to see how, I don't know, how Sunday attendance is declining as midweek attendance grows, or something like that. Two things that are related to each other, and how one affects how one affects the other, or how the two operate together. So as well as those kind of preset reports, we let you choose any of these measurements, all the things that Tracy went through, really. It allows you to view them as a line chart and see how it is progressing throughout the year. So that's just a rough overview of what we've got it planned for reporting. But we're going to be working with the diocese once there is some decent data in there to make sure that we've got reports that suit everyone's needs. We've just put some rough ones together to give an idea there. You'll also, if you're a mission area administrator or a mission area leader, you'll be able to control who has access to the system. So this test user, Trevor, that we've both been logged into, he has access to 4 different churches to fill things in, and we've also given him access to 2 mission areas. Most people will just have access to 1 church, but we can have a look at the users in my mission area. I've just got 3 set up at the moment, and if I click into Trevor here, so it's listing the churches in the mission areas that he's got access to, and if I click into him, I can either take away All Saints Buckley, I can remove his access to that church, or I can add another church in for him. So I'll just I'll add that one back in actually, and it's the same with mission areas. He's got access to a couple of mission areas, but if I only wanted him to have access to 1, he can. It shows his login, this is his login at the moment. His password isn't shown on the screen because he's already changed it to something memorable, but I'd be able to reset his password if he forgot it, give him a fresh password, and then when he logs in for the first time, he'll be asked to change it to something memorable. And adding a new user, so adding someone who you want to record figures for, is just a case of clicking add a new user. You record their name and their email address, and it'll then let you assign churches to them and mission areas. And you can send a little invitation email to them as well, which will give them the address of the site to start using it, and their login details as well. So it's quite easy to add new users and give them access to the churches they need access to. And you will end up with a couple of dozen in each mission area, I guess, and that's the way that can be controlled. So
can I ask a question?
Yeah, certainly.
When you were setting up the new user, it said reporting user, and there was another question, and I wondered if you could explain to us what that means.
Yeah, of course. It was admin user. So this person that I'm logged in as, Trevor, has admin access at the moment, which means he can do this kind of thing, control other users. So there'll only be a couple of people probably in each mission area who is set up as an admin user. Most people won't be admin, and so they'll just have the ability to record figures for a church. And then the other thing, the reporting user, you can either allow or deny people access to the reports in the system. So when they log in, they'll see their churches and their mission areas, and then if they're an admin user, they'll be able to click into this and see the users, and they'll be able to click into the reports and see the reports. But if you don't give them access to those bits, they won't see them. They won't have access to them.
Lovely, thank you very much. Are you ready to open the floor to questions?
I am.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm going to stop the recording.